There you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Whoa, you have a bunch of things up. Are you going to invite a bunch of people to join? How do you reconfigure your screen?
I don't know. That's
I
what
don't know either.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm just waiting for Robert to get on. And so people should be able to see you, right?
Yeah. Okay, but you have it set to where there's like 8 things. You can do it to where there's just like 2 things. You can do like person. You can do a 3 thing.
Do you know how?
How do you reconset that? Once you're live, I don't know. But hi, everybody. Okay, here, I'll share this on mine.
Can you not do
Let
it
me
after share your live? Settings, multi-guest. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's your multi-guest thing. There's like a 2, 3, 8, 20.
Cannot change well in landscape. Okay, well then make it not landscape.
I think that you would have to, so you're on a, your webcam is landscape.
Couldn't we just not do?
That's why we're little. Yeah, because you are on landscape. Okay, repost.
How do I change my camera? Pumpkin. Stop, sweetie.
Hello, Pumpkin. Does Pumpkin go with you when you go to your friend's house?
No, that's why she's very like all over me right now. Because, yeah, I just haven't been home as much. Let me know if you see Robert on there and I'll pull him in.
Okay, I'm watching. I'm like doing all my invite everybody thing.
We got one guest, Fresh Coast Claire, so we can pull someone in.
Hey, Fresh Coast Claire. Sorry, I'm tapping on my thing, so I'm not like looking at who's. I was on my 10-day sabbatical, so I haven't even been on TikTok forever. And like, oh, I just invited you, Chris. I sent you watch the live stream.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I've missed TikTok. There's been a lot going on. And I feel like, what did people do? Like, this in so many ways is our water cooler now. Like, TikTok has become the place that I go whenever anything happens. You know?
Even if
like there's a news story
right now.
Ooh. Shh. How so? Hello. Wait, who said that? Oh, Fresh Scott, you've been a follower for 3 years. That's a long time. Thank you. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? Like, if you've been here for 3 years, you've been here through some stuff. It's getting better. Scott, are you watching me over on YouTube? I don't want to say that. Are you watching me elsewhere now? If I say that out loud, TikTok's not going to like it. Today I'm with my friend here, Chris Volpe. Chris is running for J.D. Vance's vacated Senate seat, and I hope he wins it in Ohio.
We're trying.
So, yeah. So, Fresh Coast, it looked like Fresh Scott at first. You know why? Because I don't have my reading glasses on. I live kind of more in town now, so I haven't seen a rattlesnake for except on the hiking trail for months. And since moving out of my home, I have not seen my Mormon uncle that I was renting from. It's been almost 2 years. Haven't had a phone call from him. Haven't had a text. He lives 2 miles away from me, and I've never seen him. So, Chris, you've never gone through the wonderful experience of being shunned by a Mormon family. You should.
I have not. I should.
Everybody's doing it.
One of my good friends is Mormon, but he has never shunned me, to my knowledge.
That's because you didn't disappoint your ancestors by leaving the church. So, hello, Carrie. Hello, Palau. Maybe it's Palau. Anyway, hi. I'm Jenny, former Mormon, former MAGA, and I'm live tonight with my friend Chris Volpe, who is very brave, running for J.D. Vance's vacated Senate seat in Ohio. Yeah, I'm so jealous of that. Fresh Coast, Fresh Coast Claire. Let me read the whole entire thing. It says that her family was really kind to her when she left the church. My family's old school. So is your family younger than mine? Like my dad is 80. My mom's 73. So I think those old school religious people, they're more hardcore about people leaving the church. Hello, Maryland. Are you getting a bunch of snow right now?
There we
Robert
go.
did it. Woot woot.
It was such a thing to get that accomplished. I apologize.
That's all right.
You did it.
Now my head is so far.
You're a co-guest or whatever.
There it is. Is that better?
Oh, so your parents are younger. I just know, you guys, this is the time of year that everyone should live in Arizona because we have wind, we have snow, we have ice, we have flooding. And then here, meanwhile, in Arizona, I've laid out by the pool every single day.
Yeah, but what happens in the summertime?
Well, in the summertime, I visit somewhere else.
Okay.
Robert. I mean, it'll be 116 every day for like 3 months in the summertime.
Yeah, that sounds unpleasant. That's what I'm getting at.
All right.
Were we friends when I had a heat stroke this year and Kevin had to call 911 because I was unconscious?
No.
Okay, that was like September. I went for a jog, had a heat stroke, and the only thing that I remember from that day was the paramedic trying to rouse me as they were strapping me into the ambulance. So,
Ooh, that sucks.
Yeah, that's no good. That's not.
that's not good.
Look, it's plenty bad in Arkansas as far as the temperature goes, but it's yeah, it's just miserable. We don't get to 116 that I'm aware of, but we get over 100 for 30 to 40 days at a time.
I lived in Arkansas for a while and it was sticky.
I don't
Here in
know.
Arizona, we don't have that, like the sauna type of feel. But then we also don't have fall, and y'all's fall is something else. Like it's just next level.
Yeah, it's because it's the promised land over here, regardless of what Joseph Smith said.
Joseph Smith was accurate about everything, right? Amen, amen.
Well,
I do
that's
love
debatable on some levels, I suppose.
All right. Well, after this disaster, we're live. We're cooking. So welcome everybody. I can't figure out how to adjust the screen at the moment. I know there's a way, but I don't know how to do it. So we are just gonna rock and roll, I think.
Yeah, I'm on my phone for TikTok because then it gives me that nice vertical.
I had to switch to my phone also.
Okay. Well, I'm on the desktop app, which has a lot of features, but nothing like clearly where anything is ever. So we are just gonna do what we can do here. So
they make it like that on purpose so that we old people can't use it. My teenagers, they're just like do.
So I figure what we can do is just chat. There's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. We're gonna kind of do a wrap up, but we're also getting requests of people who kind of want to pop in and talk about their experiences. So we can also do that as well. Get rid of a couple of these windows, but I wanted to bring up a quick, just like little list of political events. I pulled these all out.
Wait, Chris, first you have to say hi to everybody and thank them for watching and blow kisses. Okay. Oh my God, you're killing me. Hello, everybody.
Give me 1 second. I'm trying to do like 8
I was so terrified for a minute that you're just going into the list without working the room and saying hi to everybody. Thanks for watching. Hi, Chrissy. Wendy.
Yes. Okay.
What a pretty name. Chara Lang. That's beautiful.
Charlene.
Hello, Chara. And hello, Chris. And hello, Robert. Nice to see you tonight.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Jenny.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Pumpkin is joining us for a hot minute. As Jenny has mentioned, my name is Chris Volpe. I'm running for U.S. Senate here in the beautiful, though frigid, state of Ohio right now. So thank you all for watching. We're kind of doing a little bit by the seat of our pants here. So I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. And feel free to request to join if you want to just sort of talk about what's going on. Obviously, we are in the time of the holidays and New Year's. So I wanted to kind of get together and do a recap of 2025. But me being the silly man I am, I started to look at all the stuff that has happened in 2025. And if we sat down and talked about everything, we would be here until New Year's. So I think we can kind of go through and pull some interesting things. But also, Robert and Jenny, I have a couple questions for you that I think would be fun to talk about. But we don't have any discernible order. So thank you all for joining us. And we can get cooking here. Ooh, what are you drinking, Robert? Ghost. Nice.
It's lemonade flavored, and I find it delicious.
That's fine. I do the Ghost. The protein powder is my go-to.
No, this is just way too much caffeine for one human being, but I do it anyway.
Is it high caffeine? Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah, it's a really high caffeine.
Cool. I'm not quite sure if my chat is synced up, but we're gonna kind of. If I miss something, Jenny, just yell at me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll never yell at you, but I might nicely hey, Chris. And yes, Chris is running for the Ohio Senate seat that was vacated by now Vice President J.D. Vance, and he is running as a Democrat. Wait, I just got expanded. Woo!
Yeah, that was something, wasn't it? Okay.
Chris is pushing buttons.
I know.
And Robert, should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah. If Jenny and Robert, why don't you introduce yourselves before we get cooking here?
Robert, go ahead.
My name is Robert. I'm a writer, and I do some political consulting and strategy and such. An economist of sorts. I do market strategy and commodities projections. And mostly I write these days. That's what I get to do most of the time. I do some podcasting and such. And I don't know. I hate having to.
I know, Robert. I think you suffer from. I don't know if there's a term down south, but we call it the Midwest humble, where we're just really bad about bragging about ourselves. Because I think you've done some exceptional things. You've been invited to participate in a lot of really cool stuff this year. So
I have that. I have gotten to be part of some very, very exciting things. So,
Chris, did you know that Robert was just named the Poet Laureate in this huge global conference a couple weeks ago?
I did not.
Did you know that Robert was with, what was the organization that you guys were marching on Washington? And he got to read an incredible piece that he wrote about farmers, which are absolutely the backbone of America. As we all know, we like to eat.
I'm going to hire Jenny to be my my introducer.
Do you know that after he did Midas Touch, Midas reached out to him immediately and said, "Hey, we'd like to do a podcast for you, so please come over." Do you know that Robert has people throwing themselves at him across the world to write and share his ideas and be part of this beautiful movement away from the craziness that's over there in Washington right now?
Well, there you go. I do not doubt that. I do not doubt that one bit. Not one.
Did you know that Jenny is one of the most respected voices in post-Mormonism in the country and possibly in the world? Did you know that she won't say that? But that's very true.
Thank you.
Jenny,
and that's not just from me. That's from other people that talk about it. She gets interviewed in other countries.
Yeah, I think I did 10 interviews the week before I went away for Christmas all over the world. And isn't that fascinating to talk about women's rights and religious deconstruction and the state of American society right now with people in New Zealand and United Arab Emirates and London and all over the place. So thanks, Robert.
Oh, thank you. Yep. So, Chris,
Robert.
Ohio.
Yeah, it's a place.
Tell me about Ohio.
Ohio's awesome.
More specifically, what you're running for and against and all that stuff. And then we'll get into the year in review, but everybody knows how bad this year sucks. So
yeah. I chose to run. I was the first actively running Democrat in the U.S. Senate race for J.D. Vance's seat. which is currently occupied by John Husted, who was put in there by the governor. So this is kind of an interesting race in a couple of ways. One, it's J.D. Vance's seat, who's the former vice president. Two, the current person who's occupying it was not voted in there. He was appointed by the governor. And then three, this is going to be a 2-year term in what will, fingers crossed, don't want to knock on wood or whatever, is looking like it's going to be a pretty big backlash to, I don't even want to call it current Republicanism, but in particular President Trump. So for a place that many consider to be a ruby red state, which is wild because Ohio is not that. Ohio is a very, very flippable purple state when I was growing up. I think there's a very big chance that Ohio could flip on the Senate. And I don't know if you've been following, but Dr. Amy Acton, who's running for governor against Vivek Ramaswamy, everyone's favorite early doger, and early polling. I mean, we're still a year out here, right? So whatever for polls, but Amy Acton's winning in many of these polls against Vivek Ramaswamy. And I don't know, there was a big article yesterday. I don't know if either of you two saw that. Vivek is trying to be a kinder, gentler conservative. He's trying to rebrand himself as a nicer guy, I guess.
Robert, that's the zeitgeist right now. Like I read a ton of newspapers and follow all kinds of different media from around the world. I start with like the BBC World News at 4 a.m. here. And the big movement right now is reshaping republicanism with people inside the party, like very publicly denouncing and breaking up with Trump.
I think in March you're going to see a huge breakdown in those fissures in the Republican Party. So there's about 4 groups, I would say, Jenny. Like there's like for whatever reason, Ted Cruz is still very popular with big money Republicans. I don't know why, but he is that neocon Ted Cruz.
I liked Ted Cruz when I was MAGA.
Yeah.
He just seemed trustable. That's all. It wasn't that deep
odd,
for
though?
me. Yeah.
Don't you think that? So that group, the Tucker Carlson, and then there will be like the Thomas Massey, more traditional conservative group, and then whatever's left of MAGA with J.D. Vance and probably Tom Cotton. And I don't know how that falls, how those kind of reorganize, but I do think that there will be a massive breaking up with the Trump MAGA. It'll turn more to that America First, softer voice type of neoconservatism. But it's not even neoconservative. There is no conservatism left in the United States. There's no real conservatism. It is
fascism,
authoritarian populism, I guess. I mean,
yeah, I think it's kind of, I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, when I read that article about Vivek. Because one, Vivek's not even like an Ohio guy. I mean, he has a house, it's 10 minutes away from me, some mansion somewhere, but like, he's not really.
So he's not built in Ohio like Chris Volpe is.
I mean, he spent most of his life in Silicon Valley, similar to our lovely J.D. Vance. But I was thinking about it, just the idea that they have to rebrand as sort of a softer conservative, right? I was like, this is the 3rd time in my lifetime that the Republican Party has had to do that. They've had to do that softer conservatism. I was like, what does that tell about you and your messaging and the people you surround yourself with? If 3 times in about 40 years, you have to remarket yourself as kinder, like that should be for me, that seems very telling, but I don't know what you two think. The Democrats don't have to do that.
I come from the Mormon church where they've been rebranding like every decade because, oh God, we're too racist and we're too sexist and we're too controlling and we're too, out there. So then we come out with the softer side. And I think that anything that gets really black and white and all consuming, these ideologies that are born in a vacuum where nothing else gets in, right? They're always having to rebrand because they are so absolute. So the Republican Party's been very absolute.
It's the path of every, and we've overused the word cult, I think, to the point it doesn't really mean anything anymore, especially about this group. but that's what it is. And with anything like that, you end up with one person in charge. They centralize power and it becomes their thing. And once everybody turns away from that kind of ideal, you can either fracture it and it implodes on itself, or you have to rebrand it, very much like the Mormon church. You have to come back with this softer version, but then it just does it to itself again. It all centralizes upward again, and then in 15 or 20 years, they'll have to start over. Democrats do something similar in that they lose focus of the working class a little bit. We'll just be honest with ourselves. They have this tendency to not really turn their backs on, but they get too broad in their messaging, right?
Well, and it's the focus on the trickle down, Robert. Like Democrats and Republicans both have been so invested in trickle down economics that even like my Democratic friends who are in politics, both on a local level and national, they're so focused on we have to build that infrastructure for the engine, the financial engine of America, that they're not focused on the working class and affordability because they think that that's going to trickle down to us. Yeah. Don't you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are. I had a very interesting conversation. We could probably talk an hour about this if we wanted to, with a lifelong Republican last week. And the way that he views the world is like just so disparate from how a lot of people see it. And that trickle down economics message that's been drilled into people's heads is real. And they believe that it is real. And they believe that, if we keep propping up, some of it's based in reality. Like if we create a system and a society that allows people to find financial success through business, that's great. That's wonderful, right? But what has been happening is like those two things have been kind of going side by side. So it looks like us creating a bunch of billionaires is increasing our quality of life. But the reality is that the infrastructure and the systems that we set up created the better quality of life and created the billionaires. We didn't get the better quality of life because of the billionaires, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I got a question here I wanted to answer real fast. It said, why run for senator as my first race?
I'm paused on that question. I was going to point it out to you.
Okay. It's a big swing. So a couple of things. I get asked that question relatively frequently. One, I don't view these positions of public service in that way. I don't think one needs to be a step ladder to the next. So I think you view that when politics is your career and you're trying to go from your poli-sci degree into Board of Education, into working your way up in the Democratic Party, into maybe running for a state rep, into a federal rep. But that's not how I look at things, because I'm not trying to create this political career where I'll be in the government until I'm 70. I'm doing it because I think that my skills and experience offer a lot of value to the Senate and to Congress in a way that most senators don't have. And also keep in mind, I was thinking about this originally in February of this year. So at that point in time, we were weeks away from Trump coming back into office. I was looking around at the Democratic Party and just being like, why can they not do anything? They just can't pick up the ball. And I think that there is a real chance for new opportunities and new people. I see a bunch of things here you're quoting, like, yeah, you need a lot of money to run for Senate, although I don't think you actually need that. So $500 million, yeah, it's total spent in 2024 in Ohio. Absolutely. But most of that was wasted. There's a lot of research that shows that the majority of a lot of political spending is just absolutely wasted. It's wasted on consultants. There was a really intriguing article I was reading today where most of the donor events that these senators participate in, 40 to 50% of that money is given to the people that helped raise the money. So you can take that 500 million and probably cut 40% of it off right there, because that didn't go into the campaign. It went into funding consultants and others. So
as someone that works in politics and political campaigns, the actual number that you would look to have to be viable in a campaign would be $2 million by October of 26, not $4 million by January of the year before. I don't know where you're getting those numbers from, but that's not.
Yeah. I also, again, take a step back, right? Like this, let's say all these numbers are 100% correct. Cool. Like that's fine. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't do this. I think Democrats in particular, and I heard this time and time again from a lot of Democrats. Democrats have this tendency to not do something if they don't think they can win. And it creates this system where they're always reactionary. So I'm a video gamer, a game developer, a board gamer, and there's a thing in the gaming space which is like, okay, you're constantly thinking about what your next step is and how people are going to respond to you. And instead of being like, well, they're going to do this, so I shouldn't do that. They're going to do this, so I shouldn't do that. Sometimes you do it because then it forces your opponent to make a decision. They now have to make a move, and you've eliminated these opportunities for them. And I think Democrats have this tendency to just undercut themselves before they even get into the arena, and that allows their opponents to have free movement on the game space. So for me, like the reality of the situation,
I feel like that's where all of us are. Like that's America right now. The Democrats and other people have been just sitting back like, we're not going to win, so let's just step out of the game for a minute and look who's taken over.
Yeah. But look what's happening in all these special elections that have happened this year. Like, even you're looking at Tennessee with Afton.
The Georgia mayor yesterday.
Yeah, the Georgia mayor.
Recently. Like, oh my God.
Step into the space. And I understand it's a ton of money. It's a ton of time. Everybody, like people like me, I'm just a normal guy. I work paycheck to paycheck. Like I got a business to run and I teach. Like it takes time away from those things. But every race that you can participate in is resources that your opponent is going to have to spend, even if it's just a little bit. And right now, at least the warning signs that are going off in Ohio, there's a lot of things going on in Ohio on the back end. There aren't any safe seats right now. The GOP is looking at every seat and is very worried about any one of them flipping. So go and participate in it. And since I was the first actively running Democrat in the Ohio race, there was no competition. There was nobody else doing anything. So I stood up and I said, I'm going to do something. And here we are. If you happen to have $4 million, let me know too. Sorry, Robert, go ahead.
No, I think a lot of times the amount of money that gets raised is it's not exactly understood as to how that money is spent. Most of the time, not all of that money is spent. It's put into coffers for re-elections. It is used in PACs. It's used for polling or whatever. It's not. There's not a lot of good stewardship around raising $4 million for a campaign, especially pre-primary. I mean, you're going into a primary in January. A lot of times you may not even know what your primary field is yet. So to have $4 million, like the amount of money that would have to have been raised from private donors in that time span is incredible. Nobody is spending that kind of money or donating that kind of money yet. Your politicians that have that kind of money have had it from previous campaigns. They have super PACs. They're going to donate that kind of money. It's not a $40 a head, or even if you had people maxing out at $3,500, you're not going to see that kind of money in January before primary, unless you have an incumbent that's not being, run against. But they're still not going to have that kind of money in the coffers. Yeah.
And again, also you have to remember, like over 60% of Ohio is unaffiliated with a party. They're not diehard Democrats. They're not really diehard Republicans. And they're the number one thing that I hear when I'm just talking to people. Even so, for example, I have to do signatures right now. And in Ohio, in order to get signatures to be on the primary ballot, I can only get signatures from registered Republicans registered Democrats. And in Ohio, to become registered or affiliated, you have to vote in a primary. And the most common answer I hear is like, no, I'm not affiliated. Like I don't vote in primaries because I don't want to be affiliated. They don't want to be affiliated with the Democrats or the Republicans. That is a giant swath of people that are looking for somebody that doesn't sound like a robot and they feel understands them and is going to try to deliver on actual meaningful change. So, yeah, I mean, Sherrod Brown's in. The reality, if you had to put Vegas odds, is Sherrod Brown has complete control of the Democratic Party here. Like, so the reality is, he could probably clean my clock without much effort. But I have a tendency to surprise people, and I think that the Democratic Party has become complacent in many, many ways. And unfortunately, for what it's worth, I have noticed that the Democratic Party here in Ohio is not very efficient or well organized. So efficiency and organization, as they learn in the military, like good land logistics, that can do a lot of stuff. It's not going to overcome.
Sherrod lost last time, so
yeah, and Sherrod lost last time. I have not seen any polling that shows him far and away kicking butt. So,
is there any inside polling yet?
I have not seen anything. I've heard a little bit through the scuttlebutt, but I'm not going to say it because I'm not sure how legit it is.
I haven't seen anything, so I don't think that he's run any polling. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But again, it goes back to all of these things. I went to this holiday party for the one of the Democratic groups here in Ohio, and it was like filled with just super, super smart young people. And I'm hearing them talk about, because I'm just trying to learn. I'm hearing them talk about all these different things that are going on, all these different like strategies. And the entire time, it's all high level strategy, right? Which is fine. You should understand that stuff. But like high level strategy doesn't convince voters to have your back. It doesn't create a vision for a future that people can get behind. Or Jenny and I have talked about creating a movement multiple times, and like high level strategy is important, but I think a lot of times you also tend to miss the forest through the trees, as it were. And I think there are opportunities. So for example, if I can get on a debate stage in a primary with Sherrod Brown, that gives an opportunity to bring up a lot of stuff like PAC. I see some of the things here: PAC funding, money out of politics, healthcare for all. Sherrod Brown has never committed to a healthcare for all, like Medicare for all or universal coverage. So there is a lot of opportunities to do this. Do we want to pull in a Stacey Snails and see what she has to say? See what happens here?
I never pull in strange people, but if you'd like to,
I would say.
Do you know her? Has she commented before? I only pull in people that I know, but
I do not know this person.
It's your platform. Robert, what would you say?
On what?
Pulling in somebody.
I mean, that's up to you, Chris. It's yours. It's your stream, buddy. We're just here to chit chat. I will say that, I mean, Sherrod will be what, 74?
Mm-hmm.
He's 74 right now. He's 74 right
now. What's the average age? What's the average voter age in Ohio? 37, 38, something like that.
In Ohio, we tend to be a little bit higher, I think, but
let's say it's 40. There's a lot of conversation around age of politicians at this point, and I think that will play some small part. While he does have the name, I mean, he'll be 75 at election.
Mm-hmm. I will also remind people, again, for whatever it's worth, that I talk to a lot of people out there. And out of every 10 people that I talk to, I hear maybe one or two of them being excited about Sherrod Brown. The other 7, 8, 9 are just like, oh my God, thank God somebody else is running. There's a lot of people, they don't have any ill will towards Brown. They don't, hate him per se, but they just want somebody else in the mix. They want new voices in the mix. So again, I don't think that there's a problem with, excuse me. I don't think there's a problem with challenging the status quo and the establishment and seeing what happens, even if it's a tough uphill battle. Let's see what happens. Maybe we can Mom Donnie this thing. Who knows?
Let's do it. So, Chris and Robert, we came here tonight to close out 2025 and do a rundown of the year. And it's been a really interesting year. So, Chris, shall we segue into that?
Sure. Yeah, we are happy to talk about. I'm trying to follow the chat here. We can talk about anything. Yeah. So I think overall, and we can try pulling. If somebody wants to come in that has something they want to talk about quickly, they can share their story. We'll try pulling it in. Remember, do it well.
Let's start a topic first before we do that. Chris, I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of lives, as you know, and I like to have a topic so that people know what they're talking about, so that we can stay on track, so that we're not wasting any of our time or their time or the listeners' time. So let's get topic focused and start dialoguing about some things that people can talk about. and kind of stay in that. And then we can kind of build on that with some other conversation.
Well,
if I could just give my social
sense.
media management perspective.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure we will pull in a bunch of interesting people if we do. So the first thing I wanted to kind of bring up, we are pretty much a year, minus 3 weeks here from the new administration, the 47th president of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. I'm just curious, your feelings as you sit here now compared to what you thought when that inauguration was happening. Are they different, better, worse? Like where are we feeling after a year before we talk
Robert,
about
do you want to go first or want me to go first?
It's an interesting. So it started out very pessimistic. Like I assumed the worst because that's what we do. But I think there was part of me that was that was hoping that it would, that it would be that thing where we expected it to be worse than it actually would be. But that some of these guardrails and safety nets and shit would kick in. But no, it's gone exactly. The dollar's not doing as poorly as I expected it to, say in August, like when some of that, I expected to keep trending down. But I don't even know that I trust numbers anymore coming out. I mean, 4.6 is high, but I still don't think it's high enough. Like I think we're probably closer to 6. If we took real numbers, what is it? We're probably at a 20,000 job per month deficit right now, but they're not reporting it that way.
Yeah.
If they're
The
willing to
regime
put out
is
a
cooking the
4.6
numbers, says Blue
Well, it's
South
like
they're willing
Rising.
to put out a 4.6, it's much worse than that.
But that's also like the inflation numbers, right? They put some of those numbers out, how inflation wasn't as bad or whatever. And then when you dig into it, you realize it's all a crock. Like healthcare, like housing wasn't put in those
Not
numbers.
included.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's just like none of it is trustworthy anymore, which was one of my topics so we can jump to that. But before we do that, I want to hear about the differential between then and now in your feeling.
I think that reality, I mean, if we're talking, the numbers tell one story. I think the reality is more dismal. From an erosion of trust globally, if you look at from an economic standpoint, we look at global reserve holdings of like gold and things like that. So as central banks are really pulling in more gold and less dollar in terms of holdings, that tells you that that institutional faith is dwindling pretty substantially. China has become an economic juggernaut, which 3 years ago we would have said that China was on a decline, and so now without any other option, they've had to improve and really move forward with Belt and Road a lot sooner. The BRICS allyship has really strengthened this year. They have found ways to lessen their Western dependence, and they're really shoring up their supply lines in Southeast Asia and stuff. We have lost our ability to keep our hands on the reins as a nation, and so I think that's actually reflected in our national security strategy, but not in a way that makes you feel better about it. Like nobody really has a plan. I wrote in a Substack article recently that it feels like the plane may be in the air, but nobody's flying the goddamn thing. We're in a flat spin. And
I think that's a really important point. I've had this conversation with others that you can make it a good distance on inertia and momentum alone, right? You cut the engines out, you take your foot off the gas, and that car will coast for a bit.
That's terrifying.
But at some point, somebody needs to refuel it, somebody needs to drive it, someone needs to get it back on the road. And I think that the United States has managed probably, if for at least the past 20 years, maybe if not all of my lifetime, to coast on a strong economy that was built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And as dramatically changed over the past few years. So yeah, I definitely share that concern. Jenny, what about you?
Chris, I feel like most of the world has probably, the term quiet quit. Like you
Mm-hmm.
hate your job, but you like the insurance, so you stay and you're just not doing as much as you can. Just from my conversation with some of my friends around the globe, I feel like everybody's kind of quiet quitting us. I think that like they don't want to fully pull out of supporting the United States again because we've had that image of this superpower in the world for so long, but they are doing things. They're economically and policy wise pulling away from America little bit by little bit. And us as regular citizens, we probably don't see the full scope of that yet. But if you were China, if you were France, if you were anybody right now, wouldn't you kind of quiet quit? Like, well, I don't want to file for divorce quite yet, but I'm thinking about it,
I don't
you
even
know?
think it's that quiet, to be honest with you. I mean,
True.
China pulled out of our soybean and corn market completely. I mean, they
Wow.
will. Those are done. I mean, that's
Yep.
uh,
Well, China can because they're bigger than us. So they have, that power dynamic. Not that they're bigger. They're a force equal to us politically, um, in every way. But there are other countries, smaller nations that I think are quiet quitting because they can't just pull
Yeah.
out. Yeah, China can, Russia can, other people can, but your little people, Finland,
I think
they
that you
have
will
to quiet
see
quit.
Yeah.
the EU. They will reinforce NATO and the Paris Accords. I mean, they're moving forward without us for sure. And I think that most of their plans for 26, 27, 28 will be made without the expectation of U.S. support. And
Or
I think
US
that's where
consistency,
uh,
dependability.
yeah, I think they're just going to take us out of it completely. Like, hey, positive if they swing back, but we have to figure out a way to move forward without them because there isn't that dependency or consistency there. They
Yeah.
will use us as long as they need to until they figure out new economic supply chains, until they figure out new viability long term. But
There is a potential positive here in all of this, which is that if the U.S., if we can pull ourselves back from the brink of insanity here, that this period of time might have gotten a lot of the other countries to get themselves into a stronger position that will strengthen them and then strengthen, hopefully, an alliance that we will be able to re-enter after we get back from this craziness, and that maybe
After we
there's some.
recover.
Yeah, after we recover, and I've said this before. I think I said it on one of the podcasts that you and I did, Jenny. But like, I feel like we are, as a country, going through a sort of a psychotic break right now, and
Yes.
we are not able to sort of take care of ourselves, and so we kind of ask the rest of the world to be kind to us. Don't tolerate the nonsense, but be kind to us like you would any family member, and hopefully in time we will be able to re-earn that respect. But it's gonna
We
it's
are
gonna
not
take a
our
long
best
time.
selves at the moment.
Yeah, we are not our best selves. We need a moment to work through
Pull
some
ourselves
things.
together.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris, to your question of going into this year, so we're almost a year into the Trump presidency, and to your original question of did it meet my expectations, exceed my expectations, where was it?
Mm-hmm.
I was deeply disappointed because, again, like just a little bit of my journey, I spent the first 48 years of my life being MAGA. I was a Mormon trad wife, alt-right. I had a 2-year supply of food for Armageddon to come. I was a Christian nationalist white supremacist. That's who I was. And as I've transitioned out of that, 7 years ago, I left the Mormon church, and it's been this 7-year deconstructing bit by bit. So I found myself 2 years ago stepping away from the Republican Party for the first time at age 48 and a half. And super excited to like, oh, yay. Now, like, my eyes are kind of opened. I realized I don't want to be judgy and hateful. I don't want to try to judge or shove the Bible down every American's throats anymore. Like, it was kind of this little honeymoon period of being outside of MAGA. And then the campaign cycle started, and I saw Trump gaining momentum, and I saw MAGA that I had just left really rising the poll numbers. And I was so disappointed to like not be part of MAGA anymore and like no longer want them to have any power in the country, especially as somebody who knows deeply behind the scenes, right? Like
Mm,
that was my life. I'm part of that community. I know the stuff that they're not saying out loud, the quiet conversations at the dinner tables. And it's more terrifying, I think, than anything that we even see on screen for people who weren't part of that. So I was really disappointed to see Trump win, but I was kind of rooting for him. Like, well, maybe the economy is going to get better because I am an optimist. So I always hope that everybody exceeds my expectations. And I have to
oh,
say
I'm
that,
sure.
like, just on a personal level, I do not ever wake up in the morning without just having this sense of dread because of Donald Trump, because of
Yeah.
the cruelty, like in my hometown. And this isn't just stuff that I'm watching on the news. This is, there are real life people who have been dragged out of their vehicles just blocks away from me by ICE and deported, and they didn't get to even go back home and like say goodbye to their cat. Some of the cruelty, some of the Epstein stuff has been deeply upsetting to me. Just seeing the way that to see my president say this is a scam, this is fake, and the dismissal of victims when I myself have been a victim of horrible crimes that, like I really commiserate with these people. And it's like, can my president at least say, my heart breaks for the victims and we're doing everything that we can? Seeing the way that America has gone down the toilet in the eyes of the world, when like I spent my whole life, I'm almost 51. And as a girl growing up in the 70s, we're really focused on being good citizens, right? I was very conscious of America being this light on the hill. And we are no longer that. We're the laughing stock in so many ways. So yeah, he exceeded my expectations for horribleness for sure. Some of the insanity, like I generally watch the news sometimes and just think, is this real? Like
Yeah.
JD Vance at Turning Point USA, just not even a week ago, standing there on the stage saying, we should no longer be ashamed to be white people.
Yeah. Nobody was
Nobody was ever
asking you.
ashamed to be white.
Yeah. Nobody
Yeah.
was asking you not to be. They were asking you to be ashamed of your behavior because
Yeah.
you're a monstrous jackass. But in my humble opinion, for the
Somebody wants you to introduce Pumpkin.
Oh, do you want to say? Here's Pumpkin.
Pumpkin will spin and Pumpkin has a little beauty mark on her nose, like Cindy Crawford. It's so cute.
She is a sweetie, and she's very needful. As mentioned earlier, I'm taking care of my friend who's recovering from a cancer surgery, and so I haven't been home as much as I normally am. So she's, I think, feeling a little needy.
That waking morning dread. Absolutely. Yeah, that's like hopeful. Every morning it's like, okay, well, now there's a ceasefire between Gaza and Israel. And then you wake up in the morning and it's over. And then there's been a school shooting and then the Charlie Kirk and all these things. Like every morning it's like, now what?
Yeah, let me hit on that real fast because I think that's something that we get caught into. And it's hard to say, like, don't pay attention to it, right? Because we have to be cataloging this stuff. We have to be paying attention to it because that's how we fight against it. But I think go into it knowing that this is their strategy. Their strategy is to just do crazy ass things all the time so that we can't keep our eye on the ball. And that dread, I think it hits all of us. Anybody that actually cares about taking care of this country and wanting it to be better, I think it all impacts us. But I think it also opens up a really big opportunity for us because I think there are a fair number of people. I'm going to tell you a little story here in a second, but there are a fair number of people that are waking up to what's happening and the potential for things to get so bad that everyone's like, we cannot do this again is real. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people are going to get hurt in this process and we're going to have to figure that out. But so I was talking to somebody a couple days ago about the new Epstein files. And he mentioned that the exact phrasing was something like, oh, the Epstein file, there's a new dump of Epstein files. Bill Clinton's in a bunch of them. This is all stuff that happened 10 or 20 years ago. I don't really care about it. And so I responded, I was like, you don't care about the sexual assault and potential rape of young girls and women.
Okay, be careful with words on TikTok Lives because we don't want to get shut down.
Yep.
Grape.
Even though it was 10 to 20 years ago, right? And his response was, and I kid you not, he had no idea that young women and girls were involved in the Epstein files. He literally had no idea that this is what the core of the Epstein file investigation was. The only thing he knew is that they kept talking about Epstein and Trump.
So Chris and Robert, don't judge me, but I didn't know what any of the Epstein stuff was until 2 years ago when I left MAGA. And then I decided to dig into it. So I watched some Netflix stuff and read a couple books and started diving into it to research videos for my own channel. But I had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily a judgment thing. I mean, whenever you are in when you're in a media bubble that feeds you a certain amount of information, you're very confident that they're giving you the information that you're supposed to have, right? Like you have no reason not to think that they wouldn't give you. And if you don't feel a need to go to go find out on your own or do the research because you work and you have children and you have all this stuff and you just expect that your news outlets, whatever they are giving you the information you need. Why would you? If I'm being honest, I mean, I'm not saying that excuses anybody, but I get it. I get part of it. Like, I don't think there's a need for judgment there as much as there is but once you hear otherwise, then maybe take it upon yourself to go.
Sure.
To do it from there. But
yeah, then it was overwhelming because I'm like, how did I not know what this was? I heard people talking about Epstein this and Epstein that, but I didn't know what it was. Chris and Robert.
I ignored it for a long time too.
I invited Colty's stuff in because she said something that I think that we need to hear a little bit more of here. Okay. How that things are changing in Utah. So hello. Hey, Steph.
Oh, thanks for having me up. Yeah, I live in the Salt Lake Valley. I live actually in Salt Lake County, almost to the Utah County line. So almost to Lehigh area. It's a really interesting spot.
It is an interesting spot. I spent a long time in Utah.
I used to work in Lehigh at Thanksgiving Point, actually. I worked for a couple tech companies up there, and it was really, really interesting. Really interesting. So since the Kirk event, it's been, I say,
you're not very far away from it because UVU.
I'm 15 miles away.
Okay.
And my kids went and saw Imagine Dragons there, and I dropped them off, and I didn't go with them. It's so safe. The area is so safe. I had no problem dropping off my teenage girls alone to hang out there. And my kids were like, "Isn't that where we went to the concerts?" So they're aware of it.
So since the Charlie Kirk tragedy, how have things changed there?
I think younger people are becoming radicalized a little bit faster. So on the news, they're pushing that this was a trans kid. I don't believe it was. I don't believe that storyline.
That was disproven, I think, a while ago, right?
Yeah. Well, they're still pushing it on some news broadcasts. There was so much, I would say, misinformation that came from the case. At first, they thought that Tyler Robinson was the son of a police officer, and that was going around for a while, and he wasn't. But yeah, we've got several cars decorated for Charlie Kirk here. We've got several billboards with Charlie Kirk's name on it, which we wouldn't have seen before the death, It's there were very few people who knew who he was before, and it was really the people who went to BYU and UVU and LDS Business College. Those colleges kind of knew about Charlie Kirk, but now everybody knows. And now we're getting, we have at Utah State University, the smallest university here, we have a Turning Point chapter now. We have Turning Point chapters in all of our colleges now, where we didn't before.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Right?
I just
right?
lost my daughter to Turning Point USA. I don't know if I
Do they
haven't done
know?
a single video about that.
Do they know what Charlie preached, like with the Old Testament? Do they understand what preaching the Old Testament is?
I don't think so.
I
I
yeah,
don't think so either.
I don't think they do, and I also think that here's kind of the weird thing. I don't know if this makes it better or worse, but a lot of the stuff that's going on is not new. We've had extremism since the
No.
dawn of humanity. We've had cults, we've had power grabs, we've had corruption. Um, I think a lot of us are just kind of, and I'll speak for myself here. I think we're just kind of heartbroken because we thought at the end of the day we were better than all this. Like
Hmm.
we thought we had learned some lessons over our history, and it just seems like we're coming back to where we were. But I'm holding out hope, and maybe it's a naive hope, but I think it's the truth that most people at their hearts are kind, and most people are pretty intelligent. And I think that there is going to be a very big backlash of folks. It's easy to get pulled into something like Turning Point, but to stay there and just constantly be there, you'll start to notice. And Jenny, you've spoken about this in several videos, particularly as you were deconstructing, but once you start to notice that like one thing seems wrong or doesn't make sense, then you're going to begin to ask yourself, okay, well, what about this thing? And what about this thing? And Turning Point doesn't have the answers to those, right? It's vitriol and anger, and that can only go so far.
So true. But for kids so like my daughter who has joined Turning Point, she's 22, my little Chloe.
I'm sorry.
I know, like I literally haven't spoken to my daughter since the Charlie Kirk tragedy.
Oh, that's hard.
Because she drilled me. She called me on the phone one day, and the conversation was about my ex-husband. And she's like, "I don't understand why you haven't forgiven Dad for what he did to you." And I was like, "I never have to. My therapist told me to never forgive him. I don't have to forgive anybody. I'm actually happier not forgiving him." And so this was the conversation, and I didn't realize that this was a booby trap. This was just 2 days after the memorial. She said, "Have you ever heard of Erica Kirk?" Yes.
And you're like, yes, I have. Oh,
And so
dear.
she tells me the story. She's like, Erica's husband was just, brutally unalived here 3 weeks ago. And at his memorial 2 days ago, and she was there, she said she stood in front of the world and said, "I forgive the man who unalived him." And I was like, "That's a bunch of BS, Chloe."
I agree.
And so she starts crying and like, you're an evil person. You're terrible. You see the world in such a horrible way. And this is my family now. And she hung up on me, and I have not spoken to her since.
No.
So I didn't spend Christmas with her. I have not heard from her. She won't reply to text. I'm estranged from my daughter because she just got sucked up into TPUSA.
I have a daughter that is a Trumper also. And then I have an older brother that actually works for ICE. It's a really interesting situation. It's horrible, actually. I have another sister who her kids are half Hispanic. Her ex-husband's from Hidalgo, Mexico. And for Christmas, my brother who works for ICE sent her a picture of Santa Claus riding gators. And I thought that was the most inhumane thing he could have ever done to his sister. Like,
Classic.
yeah, right? Are you two gentlemen prior Mormon also?
No. Nope.
No.
No.
No,
Okay,
no.
People
so
are shocked that I would have friends that are not ex-Mormon.
so with the Mormon church, forgiveness is the most important.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the perpetrator did to you. Forgiveness is the most important thing. Like, do you remember it was a few months ago, the Mormon chapel that was
Yeah.
assaulted?
Attacked. Mhm.
Yeah, that was attacked. Yeah.
There were
The
so many
victim,
people on
there
the
were so
news.
many more people who donated to the
The
attacker's family
perpetrator. Mhm.
than donated to the victims of that. And that
That's
breaks
because
my
of Jacob
heart.
Hansen over at
I
Thoughtful
just,
Faith. Yeah.
I see that as a symbol to come get more. Don't do that. Like,
Yeah, such mixed emotions about that whole
yeah,
entire situation. So
I feel like to pay the guy as a calling card for other attacks, and it's not smart to do that. But
I agree, Steph. Well,
forgiveness
Steph,
is the biggest thing.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah, stop by another time. We'll let you hop off now so you can go on with your life.
Thank you. I'm going to continue listening in the comments.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, I think Miri also in the comments, you don't get forgiveness without accountability. And I think that there's a lot of folks that there's a lot of accountability that needs to be done here to what is
so
happened.
Guys, isn't that kind of your problem with like the Epstein situation, the forgiveness without accountability? Like, I want them all held accountable. Yeah. Right? And we've kind of skipped over that. So Trump can print a Bible and he can go to church and he can do whatever the hell he's doing to make the Christian nationalists think that he's changed his ways. But that brutal accountability and that asking for forgiveness is such an important next step, first step.
The problem I have with forgiveness in this particular situation is that forgiveness isn't mine to give to him here, right? That's betwixt him and the people he harmed. Our role is the accountability part.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Excellent point. If it's not legal accountability or justice on that, I mean, we owe more to the victims here than we ever owe to the perpetrators. And again, forgiveness is between him and the people he wronged, or between him and God, or whatever that means to him. It's not my place to forgive him for anything. And even if we don't find any sort of legal ramifications for it, there is a broader expectation of the office that we should hold ourselves to. And it's not just
absolutely
that this man, but anybody that puts themselves in that sort of proximity to someone that knowingly has these issues, right? And he spoke about knowing that Jeffrey Epstein did these things. Even without, if we just pretended for a moment that he didn't himself participate in any of it, the proximity itself should disqualify him from having any sort of federal law. I mean, just that idea itself, that you would put yourself in the proximity of those kinds of people for that amount of time, should disqualify you.
Okay, so Robert, let's engage in this conversation really quick, because I hear this from people quite often, right? Mm-hmm. There's going to be people who are going to say what happens in his private life, that's behind closed doors, has no impact on his public service.
Sure.
We heard this with Bill Clinton. We heard this with Richard Nixon. We've heard this with, what was his name? Weiner. There's so many, John F. Kennedy. There have been so many presidents who've engaged in criminal activity, unethical activity, a whole spectrum of things. And we tend to lean into, but they're still a good president. And I think that assumption comes from just the assumption that everybody has skeletons in their closet. So we're not looking for a Mother Teresa to run for president. So what do you say to that? Like, should we separate public and private?
For a good president. I mean, there's a difference.
Do you have to be a good person to be a good president? Do you have to be a good person to run for Senate in Ohio, like Chris is doing? Like, what if Chris is a scumbag behind closed doors, but he's a really good politician, which I know you're not, Chris, but.
Well, a politician is one thing. A public servant is something completely different. And if our expectation is that we have people that serve the public, judgment matters. Mm-hmm. Character matters in those particular situations. We're not hiring someone to run a business, because the government should never be a business. Government is representation. And government, when we view it as a business instead of representation of the populace, that becomes the problem. And if all you're looking for is someone that can fucking make money or can run a business, well, you're looking for the wrong thing. Government's not a business. It's not here to serve a profit. It's not here to serve anything but the public. And so, yes, character matters, because you represent me. You represent me to the rest of the world. And so what you do behind closed doors matters, or don't run for fucking president.
I think that's true. I think
that was so good.
I think there is one of the things that Trump is exceedingly good at, because he is a con man, and he's good at reframing the conversation. So the topic of, well, I don't need a perfect president, or like you hear this all the time. Trump is an imperfect vessel. like, right? That is said constantly, right? As if it's a binary, like you're an angel or you're imperfect. Like, I'm not
Black and
talking
white
about
thinking, yeah.
I'm not talking about being imperfect. I'm talking about being an absolute scumbag con artist who is the most corrupt political leader the United States has ever had by far. There's a big distinction between somebody who maybe says a couple off-color comments every once and again and somebody who is pillaging the American government for all it's worth. Like, those are vastly different places to stand. And this idea that we have to sort of look at how good, of a job they do. First of all, is almost kind of ludicrous because he's not doing a good job. So take that into account. But yeah, I think that this idea, to Robert's point, is like, I don't need you to be perfect, but I do need you to have a moral center. And I do need you to have empathy for your fellow citizens. And I need you to understand that there are a lot of complex issues. And every time you say you're going to have a healthcare plan in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks passes and you don't have anything, and you're like, oh, healthcare is complicated. No, we know healthcare is complicated. Everybody knows that. The fact that you don't is just because you're an idiot. And every time you delay getting something passed, people are suffering. So
They don't know what they're doing.
They have no idea what they're doing.
The bare minimum for public service is that. Let me rephrase this. First of all, there's no right answer in politics, right? There's only the best possible effort. There are plenty of wrong answers, right? And one of those wrong answers is pretending like there's a right answer. Everything has to be directed toward the best possible result for the most amount of people. And there's no perfect answer to the way healthcare should work. There's not. Pretending there is a fallacy.
mm-hmm.
But there is a way to try to work toward finding the best possible answer for what serves the most people. It's going to cover people at different depths. Some people are going to benefit more from a healthcare program than other people are, but that's just the way it shakes out. You're never going to find full equality in this system. You just have to find equity. And as much as we have these Republicans that pretend like there is a healthcare service that benefits private equity and the population equally, that never will exist. That will never exist. And also, who gives a fuck about private equity when we're talking about the government, which is a collection of people that are supposed to represent the people?
Sure.
Like, the government's not supposed to be this authority that we look up to and praise. That's just not how it's supposed to be set up. And anybody that thinks that it is hasn't read the Constitution. And that's what drives me crazy. Sorry, I'm a little angry right now.
Angry.
That's what drives me the craziest
Robert.
about these people with "We the People" fucking tattooed on their forearms and on the back windows of their trucks. They've never read the goddamn thing. They've read the first fucking 4 words and heard somebody else talk about it, and then they rave about it as if they're constitutionalists. If you have not expanded your reach past the Constitution itself into the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, if you don't understand the argument that existed around the document itself, then you don't understand it. And that is...
We were having that with the free speech argument that was going back and forth, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, free speech, free speech, free speech. It was like, they don't understand even just fundamentally when we talk about free speech, you're talking about freedom of speech from the government, not freedom from repercussions by doing and saying cruel stuff. And there's a complexity to this that requires us to really dig down. And if I can be a little scary for a second, I think that's what is being tested here. I think we are testing if America as a people, and potentially the world, if we are capable of growing and maturing and getting ourselves to a point as a society and as people that we are willing to do the hard work and we are willing to sit down and solve problems. And I think that is what is being tested, which is what is, again, my shining, just to get rid of the dark cloud for a second. We've done this before. Humanity has done this many, many times in human history, where we've been under the boot of extreme fear.
It's in our first
oppression.
rodeo.
Yeah. And ultimately what ends up happening is the light does end up peeking out. And I think what I'm hoping and what I'm trying to do is get us back into that space as quickly as possible with as few people being hurt as possible.
Well, Chris, and that's the key, because sometimes that light doesn't peek through the darkness until after complete societal collapse. Everyone gets guillotined and, right?
There's your accountability.
Right. So it's up to us right now to fight against what's going on in every way that we possibly can. Part of that's educating ourselves. Part of that's engagement. Part of that's running for office like you're doing in J.D. Vance's vacated Senate seat. Robert as a consultant for political candidates and supporting Hallie. I've been on sabbatical for 10 days. My brain has been scrubbed. They're in Arkansas. Like everything that we're doing to engage, we need to start doing that, because like the Velvet Revolution in the Czech Republic was able to turn the tide without bloodshed. You look back at what happened in Europe after World War I, going into the 1920s, 1930s. There were 2 decades there that Europe could have taken a different direction, that Germany could have taken a different direction, that something else could have been done, and that opportunity was lost. What I'd hate is for my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids to suffer because we missed this opportunity right now.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that would be the greatest tragedy.
I agree. The reason I keep doing what I'm doing here, despite the time and the money and the effort and all that, is because
which is running for J.D. Vance's vacated Senate seat.
Which is running for the Senate seat in Ohio. I see this opportunity. I see it very clearly. I see that we could come in on a wave, and if we have the right people in place that have the strength and the bravery to put this fight on the floor every day, like we can do some amazing, incredible things. Like we could turn this country into, that light on the hill that you want it to have. And Robert, you sort of hit on it. I sent you when the Epstein file thing came out, and I sent you that article about how they weren't actually really redacted. It just continues to illustrate, which when I think back into February, one of the reasons I got in this race was after the Signalgate issue, and they all had that, all the war plans were being discussed over Signal. That really hit me, because I was like, these people are not serious people. Yeah, they're not serious people. They are incompetent in what they do. And then they go and release a giant treasure trove of, and we kind of joke about it, but like there's victims' names in there that were not properly redacted. Like these are not serious people. And I think when we look back, when historians write our story in 10 or 20 years, the saving grace of the moment is that Donald Trump is a narcissistic idiot, and he surrounds himself with cowardly vipers and, these opportunistic people, and they're all going to fall over each other at some point because they're not good at what they do. I don't know that, maybe Robert, maybe but the DOJ's case rate right now is abysmal. Isn't it something like a 96% failure rate on their DOJ cases?
Yeah, they haven't won a single thing. It's because they're not taking any of it seriously. It is political opponents. It is bullshit. It is finding loopholes in which to indict people that aren't. Look, I'll be the first one to say, if someone's done something illegal, fucking indict them. Put them in jail. I don't give a shit. None of these people are my friends. I don't love a politician. Bill Clinton. If Obama did something illegal, put him in jail. I promise you, I don't care.
I'm 44 years old, and there is not one politician in my lifetime that I would go to bat for, that I would go to the mattresses for to go to war.
Not a single one. And when people ask me, I hate that we identify ourselves as either Democrats or Republicans, because I think that Democrat and Republican are ideologies that exist inside of a political party, and that should exist for politicians. Chris, you're running as a Democrat, right? But I'm not a Democrat. I might vote with Democratic ideals or whatever, but I refuse to paint myself into a corner.
I'm almost just anti. I'm anti-Republican. I'm anti-MAGA.
Well, I use the phrase "running as a Democrat" specifically because I don't
you do. You say that all the time.
Yeah, I don't refer to myself as a Democrat.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah. I don't think any voter should refer to themselves as anything. As it pertains to political party. because
we're
one,
not. They
well,
are, right?
it
Like
just
Chris
puts you in
is.
it puts you in this club where you feel like you have to defend other people in that club.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, look,
Also,
if
you have no
somebody's done
control
some
over it,
shit,
right?
100%. I can't control what Schumer and Hakeem
Yeah.
Jeffries do. And just because they put the same letter beside their name doesn't mean I have to agree with everything they say or do. And that's where we find ourselves in these situations where you're stuck defending someone who you wouldn't defend because they wear the same color as you do. It's absurd. And MAGA has found themselves doing that.
MAGA
You're
has
set to
perfected the cult.
defend. You have to defend everything Trump does because he's your leader. Like, no, he's your fucking president. You elected him. He'll be gone in a couple of years, or he'll die or something.
With his
And-
$6 billion.
And then what's next? You don't subscribe to anything. You don't have any moral grounding anymore.
Yeah. There's
the
the MAGA
without
party
that
has
compass-
they have no basis in ideology or philosophy.
Conservatism is dead. Conservatism is gone. There is no.
Why do you say that?
conservatism.
You've said that a couple times. So for people who don't understand, like, what are some of the main points behind that statement? I agree with you.
Conservatism, as it like Burkean conservatism, would
Who's
be
Burke?
Burke. He invented conservatism after the French Revolution. Edward Burke came in and said there has to be something that controls every problem. There has to be a side that pushes against liberalism, that says everything won't turn into a revolution, right? And he wasn't wrong. Like, there has to be like a give and take, a yin and yang to it, so that you don't have full on revolution every time. But that has been twisted into this idea that conservatism means a throwback to nostalgia, or that it has to be rooted in
Tradition.
Yes. And I guess in a way, that's at its root, it was that there is some need for the aristocracy, which is kind of what he was using, as it can't all be proletariat. Like, there has to be some push toward like a broader government that isn't necessarily centralized. Conservatism, as we would consider like modern conservatism in the United States, typically revolved around what we thought we were spending money on: smaller government, it being controlled by the states and by the communities as opposed to federally. But that doesn't exist anymore. They only want small government whenever it pertains to things like
The
abortion,
Epstein files, abortion.
SNAP, Medicaid,
marriage,
Medicare.
Education.
marriage equality, and education. But then they don't even really want localized education. If their guys in charge, they want it federalized so that they can say, oh, well, now the Department of Education is going to put Prater U as our governing body on education and things like that.
That's big in Ohio right now.
Conservatism can never mean, and of course, there's never been any fiscal conservancy. I mean, there's not a president in your lifetime that's ever spent less than the one before. Clinton balanced the budget, but he didn't do it really in a great way. That doesn't matter. Fiscal conservancy doesn't exist. It's just where they spend the money, right? So they use that as we're going to spend less on these social programs. We're going to push it to defense, and we're going to push it to wherever. The amount of money that gets spent on just private planes and shit for politicians to fly around is astronomical. They
White
get
House ballrooms.
$73 a day per diem to eat, and the average SNAP benefit to a family of four is something like $183 per month. Like, it's not.
So, Robert,
They get people wound up in the wrong thing. So there's no fiscal conservatism. There's no social conservatism. There's no policy that is conservative in its roots. They just pretend like theocracy is the ideal of conservatism. Anyway, that's why.
And that's the direction that they're pushing us all in. They're pushing us all in the direction of biblical Americana. And I have to confess, as a Mormon, like, that's all I dreamed of. I would wake up every morning and just pray for the day that Armageddon would come and we would be hastened towards the collapse of everything so that Jesus would rule and reign from Jackson County, Missouri. Like, that's what I wanted. I was a Christian nationalist. And
But the thing I don't
Well,
understand,
at this
if we're going to
point,
get
I
into
think we could
this,
use a little more Jesus.
but real Jesus, not
Yeah, the real one.
not
well,
white
was
Jesus.
there a real Jesus? Let's not
Even if
argue
there
that right
wasn't,
now.
let's say that the tenets that are expressed should be good things that we could live on.
Yes.
So, Robert, I
Right.
want to jump in real fast,
Yeah.
just because you and I talked like about a month ago. It was one of those like, oh, do you have 5 minutes? And then an hour and a half later, we're still chatting. And I think the most conservative thing that I ever heard come out of your mouth, and I'm paraphrasing, but and that's the fact that like the founding fathers created a really amazing system, and I think you did like a kind of thing about how the institutional structures and the ideas that were put into place that I don't think get enough credit, because just as a thought experiment, America is something truly special.
So
And-
unique.
And that is, I think, like the one conservative value that a lot of whatever the hell you want to call them, like those homeless Republicans now are still trying to cling to, is that the American experiment is worth preserving in some way, and not just keeping the way it always has been. It requires fixing, but that idea is worth preserving. And I agree with that. I think that this country is incredible, and we've never quite lived up to our ideals. So maybe now is the time we can do it.
Well, and why haven't we? Because the Bible's held us back, because corrupt politicians, because the Gilded Age. There's all of these people in power who have held us back from really stepping into the potential. Yeah, I think that the American Constitution, all of our founding documents, the framework of what this nation is, has so fucking much potential.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes me mad. Just knowing a little bit about
Yep.
how
I hate
we
lost
work that's
potential.
unique. Yeah, lost potential. Lost potential is the
Okay.
worst, right?
But again, you know, the thing that's kind of reassuring about this is the challenges we're facing are not new challenges. Like we have had corrupt politicians and corrupt corporations in America, let alone pre-America, right? Like we had to fight for weekends and holiday pay and minimum wages and not throwing children into mines. Like all of that we had to fight for. And even though we're taking a couple steps back here, and strangely enough, I don't know if you saw, but Ohio was debating changing the legal age to allow children to work in certain industries. It looks like that's going to fall apart, but you know, we are moving backwards in some senses in that direction. But I think our
You know why they do that? Why they reduce that age? It's not really so
Why?
kids go to work. It's because it counts them as a workable, or as a oh my god, as an able-bodied wage earner in a household, and they can reduce the SNAP benefits. So they did in the state of Arkansas. If you're 12 and you can legally go to work without a parent's permission,
Mhm.
now that person is considered an able-bodied wage earner, and they don't have to provide as much SNAP benefit.
Yeah,
Isn't that garbage?
I think I don't know what the modern day equivalent, maybe I should ask ChatGPT, of Eat the Rich is going to be, but there is something coming down the line, and
Well, I say we just keep that.
Yeah, eat
Yeah.
the rich. Fuck them. You
Just
know?
go with-
Works.
go with what
Works
works,
for
yeah.
me.
I know it sounds weird given all this doom. I'm super excited about the possibilities. I'm talking to so many people out there, particularly young people. This goes back to the accountability thing, and they're just not taking the BS anymore. They're not buying. Jenny, you and I have talked about the social contract being broken numerous times. Young people they're just not buying it anymore. They're not buying oh, hey, if you do this for your 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to be in a good place. They're just like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't trust you. I don't believe that me giving 40 years of my life to a company, which doesn't even exist, right? You're going to boot my ass out the moment I don't produce the profits that the hedge fund that owns you wants you to produce. So why am I going to give you any loyalty at all?
Well, I also think there's this thing where you've kept the next generation, Generation Z or whatever it is, you've kept them so far out of the money that they don't
Mhm.
give a shit about money anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm not even joking. Like, if you look
Yeah.
at, they don't care about driving. They don't care about cars. They don't care about a lot of them. Some do, but the vast majority, the materialism as far as like designer brands and shit is gone. And so when you've done that to an entire
Yes.
generation,
Did you see drinking among Gen Z is down like 84%?
oh my God, they don't give a they don't care about going out and drink. Like, the bar industry is going to die. The restaurant industry is following suit. When you've got this generation growing up that doesn't have money, they can't be bought, and that's a beautiful thing. They don't. It's beautiful that if they can't buy a house, well, then they'll just go get a small house and
They
they'll do
truly
more with
feel like they
less.
have nothing to lose.
That is so funny. So I have 7 kids between the ages of 15 and 29, plus a daughter-in-law, plus a grandbaby who's almost 5, right? And then Kevin, my honey, is the dean of students at a huge private school with 500 kids from kindergarten to 8th grade. So I have my finger on the pulse of this generation, the alphas, the Gen X's, et cetera, like crazy. And they are completely different than my generation. Completely different. Like all of my kids, my son has a really good job. He's 16, my little Brody. 50% of his paycheck goes to his homeless nonprofit. My son didn't like working with me in my homeless nonprofit. So about 2 months ago, he chartered his own and he's out there. He has a bunch of individuals that he buys pet food all week long and makes sure that the pets of some of the unhoused here in our local area are taken care of. 50% of his paycheck. So if the kid works a 16-hour week, 8 hours of what he works goes straight to his homeless nonprofit. He thrifts all of his clothes. He runs a small business that he flips Nikes. And it's crazy just how much he rides on me for expenditures. All of my kids are like this across the board. All of my kids are completely frugal. My 29-year-old and his wife are still renting. They're like 5 years away from even considering buying a house. They have a van that they take around the country in the summer times when they're not working and in school. They both work in education. Well, anyway, she works for a sports team. So they have summers off and
That's awesome.
they have a completely different life. So for us in our generation, we were such a consumer-based society. And I just couldn't wait until I grew up and bought a house and bought the nice cars and then a bigger house and all the designer clothes and things. And there were always these things that were like a carrot dangling that I was just trying to chase that carrot. My kids, they just don't fucking care about the carrot. Like they literally don't. They have their own ideas about religion. They have their own ideas about style. They are almost complete, but then they are my kids though. So I've raised them a little bit different than mainstream society, but I think that they are fairly typical of that generation.
Can I ask you a question, Jenny? You don't have to answer it if you don't want to on a live stream, but I'm just kind of curious because you've brought a lot of these topics up a lot and in your videos and stuff about, you were chasing the carrot and you had, a vision for your future and it looked like a certain way. But compared to now, it's going to be a weird question. Compared to now and who you are now, do you feel like your sense of understanding yourself and self-fulfillment and whatnot is much greater now than it was back then when you were trying to just get all of these things? Or is that a fair thing to say?
1,000,000%. When I even look back on, so I left the Mormon church 7 years ago, 2 weeks later, the marriage collapsed, and then I gradually stepped away from Christianity. So I guess 2 years ago was really my benchmark where I stepped into what I felt was authentic for me, an atheist, a feminist, just, a very different life. And then just also a lot of educating myself about, we're on the topic of politics and the goings on of the American government right now. Educating myself on actually reading, like, what is the Constitution? What are some of our founding documents? Who was Madison? And, what did Thomas Jefferson think about things? Like actually reading books that mattered for the first time and becoming educated. So Chris, part of the reason why the answer to that is yes, is that for years I've worked with a really good therapist, a trauma and abuse therapist who helped me unpack some of the grooming that I'd had as a child because I was in cults. I was deep into the alt-right, prepping white supremacy, Mormonism, and everything. And I had been groomed to just kind of go along with things and do whatever everybody else was doing, right? That groupthink really worked on me. So looking back, like, why did I want $1 million houses? Why did it matter if I had the designer shoes over just shoes that I bought at Target? Why did the Mercedes matter to me over just buying myself a Honda Pilot? Was because that's what everyone was doing, and I had been groomed to just do what everybody was doing. So, like, now I truly make decisions based on what's authentic for me. I'm very intentional. And I would say without a doubt, 100%, that I was never, ever happy before. I lived 48 years of my life in this dark cloud of just following along with the herd of sheep as it was about to go off the cliff. And I don't think that the first time I ever really felt happy and aligned was until like age 48.
And look at that light peaked out.
So
might have taken 48 years, but I think that's really important because whether you're in a cult or MAGA or whatever, you need that first little thing to cling on to, that first little seed where you feel like stable outside of the world that you had come from.
That little spark. Yeah, you get that little spark of, oh, this is what it's like to speak up about something.
And sometimes that's a friend or a family member. Sometimes it's a piece of information, which is why education is so important. When you just see something and it's just like, oh, that's how evolution works. And now all of a sudden things open up. I think that's super exciting. And I ultimately, I think this is the fight. That's the fight, is getting
That's the
people
fight.
to
And
see.
I'm a microcosm for the bigger movement that's going on across the country, right? Because I kind of see what's happened in 2025 as like the yin and the yang, right? These dueling forces. And on the one side, you have those old school cult leaders who we're going to do things this way and we're going to motivate people to be consumers and to, we're going to radicalize them into late stage American patriarchal capitalism. And then on the other side, you have people who, there's not necessarily a different direction, but listen to your own heart and your own brain and live the life that's best for you. And so we have like the Gen X and we have the Gen Alpha and we have so many people who are like, I don't want to just go with the flow anymore. And it's not even a Republican or a Democrat thing. It's just American citizens standing up and saying, the way that we've done femininity really maybe isn't working for me. The way that we've done working my 9-to-5 job until I die and never being able to retire, that's not working for me anymore. Our crumbling communities where we don't have friends and like the male loneliness epidemic that people talk about. Well, yeah, our communities have broken down. We don't have third spaces. We don't have gathering places. We don't have events that we do together anymore. Our tribes have corroded.
Everybody is suffering.
Yeah,
like a part of loneliness, that connection that it's really unfortunate that, and Robert, I kind of have a question for you going back to this, because I think this, Jenny, you and I have talked about, how do we build a movement? How do we make things? And I think going back to this spark, and then also reminding people that you can live, however you want to phrase it, authentic life or whatever, let's rework everything down to the bone and then build it back up. You don't need to spend all your money.
Life take two.
Yeah. Tell
Everybody needs a
that's
life
like,
take two.
if you don't buy all this crap and don't get yourself into debt, then you're not beholden to the banks. And then all of a sudden your future opens up. I think that if we went through and restructured like that on an individual level and showed that there's a more meaningful, connected way to go about your life, I think society will be forced to restructure around that. Because if you're not buying the booze, if you're not buying the cars, if you're choosing to make these purchasing decisions, like, they have to respond to that. I don't know, Robert, what do you think? Am I off on this?
No, and I've talked a lot about the forced debt cycle we are in, and it's all pushed toward, if they can stretch you to living outside your means, you're always beholden to it, right? So it's just interest, and you're just keep paying stuff off, and you feel like you have to keep up with other people that have certain things, and a lot of that's driven by media and what we see on television and whatever else. And a lot of that started in the '80s, but
Well, Robert, people talk about the keeping up with the Joneses, but in my life and a lot of my personal friends, it's not even that. It's just we can't keep up with the emergencies. So like my brakes went out on my car, that went on a credit card. And so then my son broke a tooth in a soccer game and I don't have dental coverage and I can't afford insurance. So that went on a credit card. I had a surgery that went on a credit card. So I have dug myself deeper and deeper into debt, not because I was keeping up with the Joneses or I'm a bad budgeter, but because life is so outrageously expensive that most of us, as things come up, we don't have any savings. The affordability is at the key of that. So I do definitely agree with you that keeping up with the Joneses, Robert, is a big deal. We see these things, we think we have to buy that on, TikTok Shop has the cutest Christmas sweater, but then also the lack of affordability and not having that savings account for life emergencies, right?
Yeah. I've spent most of my adult life juggling my income to pay off my debt obligations. And it wasn't until maybe 3 years ago that I got to a spot where like I could feel like I could kind of get ahead on it. But even now, I'm still paycheck to paycheck. Like I still have some debt I'm working on, but man, I was over $200,000 in debt between student loans and all my other obligations, and just the interest payments alone on that every month were brutal.
So everybody was, not everybody, but there were a lot of people during the whole government shutdown with the SNAP benefits. There were a lot of people on their social media pages saying, good for them. Like they shouldn't get SNAP, get out there and get a job, right? Who is the toast lady that eating her toast saying, just go buy your own fucking groceries. And to me, it's kind of heartless to complain about people who need SNAP benefits because they're taking money away from us rather than pointing upward. And that's, they don't want us to look upward. They want us to look downward. Who's taking the most of my money? It's not the people that I'm paying taxes to so that they can have SNAP benefits or drive on freeways or, whatever my taxes go to. It's my interest. I pay so fucking much money every month. So let's regulate that. Why doesn't somebody come in and regulate everything that leads to me being in debt?
Well, because that would cost corporations lots of money.
Right, and we protect corporations over people.
Well, it's the same reason why we don't. Tax season is going to be here before you know it, and we always talk about why don't we have an easy, free, simple tax system? There's countries that literally will send you what they think your tax obligation is. You look at it. If it's correct, you sign it. You send the check in. If it's not, you send them a thing saying this is the difference, and that's it. And the reason we don't have this tax system is because of our giant tax companies that.
Well, that we were going to have that this year, and then Doge went in and cut it.
Yeah, and we just got rid of the online free filing system through the government. There's still free filing, but it's now going to be with private companies. But the H&R Blocks and all of these companies, they spend tons of money to lobby it. There's no reason the IRS couldn't just have an online web portal that you log into, and it's like, hey, this is what we think you owe. If you're cool, pay it. If you need to adjust it. But money and greed.
I know there's so many fingers in our pockets all the time. Like from the time you're born, I've had 4 kids. You have a baby and it's so much money to have the baby in your prenatal care and then all of the car seats and everything that you have to buy and just supporting that child. I can't get married without, the marriage license at the bare minimum. And then the marriage industry is huge. It's tens of thousands of dollars for people's weddings. And then your divorce is going to cost. I think that our divorce was something like $63,000 between my ex-husband keeping me in court for 6 years. And then the money that I had to spend also. Like there's fingers in the pockets of everything. We don't just watch each other's kids anymore. We have to pay daycares as much as our mortgages to have our kids in a safe space while we work. Like everybody has a finger in our pockets and I'm a little bit sick of it.
Yeah. Well,
and it's not the people that I want to help. Like, sure. It's the rich people. It's the It's the billionaires.
Yeah.
It's the corporations.
The saddest thing of all, again, just going back to it, is like, it's always this insatiable. I think maybe you sent me some. Was it Tallarico who kind of hit on this? James Tallarico. That
I love him.
It's not a case of that we don't have enough money. It's just you're never going to be able to satiate the desires of these hyper wealthy folks, because for them it's a game, and it's also about control, and it's about ownership, and it'll never be 1 billion or 10 billion or 20 billion. So Elon Musk becomes the first trillionaire. Okay. The next thing is, okay, well, who's going to be the first double trillionaire, right? It will never stop.
Well, there's no ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, it's winning a contest. And it is, I don't want to have to pay taxes on this or whatever. I mean, so much of their wealth is tied up in abstractions. I mean, it is collateralized debt upon collateralized debt, where it's just valuations that exist in a system that's not real. It's inflated.
Yep.
And so they have to keep it there. And they don't exist in the real world. They're not wage earners or asset earners. And the economy doesn't exist to them the same way it exists to us. And when you have generations that grow up in that, they don't know the difference, that money actually comes from somewhere, and it's not just some
abstract idea.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, money just exists for us, and you're poor because you just don't have any. Like, they don't understand the idea of earning it. It's just, it just exists for them.
Well, like my 16-year-old now, if he wants to buy himself a new t-shirt, then he's like, oh, it's going to take me 2.5 hours of work. And then my tax rate is this. So here's what I'm going to bring home. He knows exactly, to earn this t-shirt, I'm going to have to work for this many hours. And it's a really simple way to look at our budgets. Rich people, I don't know, I was rich. I had so fucking much money. I didn't think about anything. I didn't look at price tags. I would go into a store, I'd walk through Nordstrom and like, oh, I want this, I want that. I didn't even flip over the price tag. I just got up to the cash register, and my husband swiped the card because I didn't have one. I was just a trad wife. So yeah, he would just swipe the card and pay. Like, I didn't look at stuff. I decided I want this car, and then I bought the car. I didn't haggle with the dealer or anything. I just showed up and got it. Money meant nothing to me. It was just an abstract idea. It was just floating out there in outer space. I can't imagine being as rich as some of our corporate owners, some of the CEOs of some of the pharmaceutical companies. I can't imagine having that type of money, how it changes your relationship to everything.
Yeah. And ultimately, at the end of the day, personally, I don't really care if we have billionaires, as long as they are paying a fair and equitable tax rate that is commensurate with the amount of resources that they are using from society. Like that's fine.
There shouldn't be special exemptions for certain kinds of wealth, right?
Sure.
Like there are certain things I agree that, like, maybe things shouldn't be taxed twice or something. Like, there are things I understand, but you should be taxed at least something. Like, if you're going to exist in this system, like, there should be a cost of doing business with the American people. And
absolutely. If you're utilizing our resources, I saw that Jeff Bezos didn't build our roads. He didn't build our airports. He didn't build our seaports. He didn't build the friggin' internet. He used all of these systems, which accounted to tens of trillions of dollars in investments that we, the American people, paid, plus tax subsidies, plus, all the EV credits for like Elon Musk and stuff. That was all gifted to them as a part of being an American and participating in the American economy. You did not build that. You did not earn it.
Scotty says every person should have to visit a third world nation for 2 weeks just to understand. Like, in high school, we should just send everyone to a third world country for a couple of weeks. Like, that should be paid through our education.
Everyone work in the restaurant business for a year.
Oh my God. Everything that I learned was from the restaurant business.
So we're getting a little tight. This is about the stopping point that we had originally planned.
Chris?
What's that? What?
Stopping point. What's that? Just kidding. I had only planned for an hour, so we're an hour past what I had planned for.
Okay. Well, the original stopping point was now, but what I wanted to do, just, because I didn't want to keep you, I know you are busy, and I appreciate you being here, but both of you, I think, have had some really good successes this year. And as we go into the new year, we're 2 days away from New Year's Eve. I would just like to hear
Crazy.
What you thought went well, or what successes you were proud of, or maybe a project that you participated in. What was the highlight or highlights of your year? And what are you excited about as we go into the year of our Lord, 2026?
Well, I'm an atheist. Robert, am I going to have to say yours for you because you're not going to brag about yourself in sufficient ways?
You may have to help a little bit, but I will start and then you can finish up with whatever I didn't say correctly. I'm proud of the people that I met this year, the people like Jenny and you, Chris, that I've met and that I've gotten to build real relationships with. And that, so many people, I am proud of the overwhelming number of people who have decided that what is happening is not okay. And that have decided to stand up where people typically wouldn't. They would just go along. So I think that is a positive sign. I'm excited that we have people like Chris running for office. And not to sound any way negative, even if those runs aren't successful, it shows a real intentionality of changing the process and changing what's happening. And I think that even if some people aren't successful in this run, their next one will be. And that we will start to see leaders that want to lead for the right reasons, people that are actually interested in public service. I'm excited that we have an opportunity to make some real changes, and that there are parties that are willing to start listening to people and to start drafting policy and strategy around what's real, and understanding that their failures have occurred over the last 25 years and have to change. There are things that look better for 26. All that to say, 26 is going to be difficult. Like, it will be a hard year because we still have a year of utter chaos as we get into, midterms and whatever. But I do know that at some point, some of these Republicans are going to have to divorce Trump. They are going to have to divorce that side of the party, the MAGA party, in order to reshape whatever's going to be left of the Republican Party in 26, 27, 28, whatever those look like. And so maybe we will start to see some sweeping changes. And even if it does salvage part of the Republican Party, may it at least be the parts that are worth fucking salvaging, if there are any. And so that's what I look for in 26. Nice. I think we have some opportunity. The paper is still good. I will say that in all ways. The paper is still good. It's just how far we've stretched it, and do we snap it back and put some guardrails in? So
absolutely. Jenny,
can I just brag on Robert just a little bit? No, he didn't. So I love your enthusiasm for the state of the union and the state of the world right now. Robert and Chris, both of you, can I just say, are such a source of inspiration for me personally. And you kind of get me riled up on a daily basis, because I do feel like this is a time in our history where we can't just sit back and watch things happen. I certainly think that there have been times in the past where we could just do our thing and enjoy our lives and la, 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 everything's going along just fine. 2025 is not that year. 2026 is not going to be that year. We're going to have to be politically active. We're going to have to be economically savvy. And we really have to engage and fight right now, fight the tide of corruption, of just disgusting garbage and trash that our kids are going to face, or we're going to pass down a version of America that I don't want my kids living in. So I appreciate you guys. You are a constant source of motivation. But Robert, you skipped over some things where you've done remarkable things. I first saw you, I don't know how many months it was ago, reading some of your essays on TikTok. And there are a lot of people out there in the world who that's all you want to do. You want to write some stuff, put out some books. You don't do that at all. Like, behind the scenes, Robert is supporting Hallie Schaffner. He's doing all kinds of freebie stuff for politicians, as well as running his business and doing some political strategy and things like that. But Robert has been invited into so many incredible things because he's a man with a vision and a voice who works his ass off to truly create a better future. So Robert's been around the world and back again. He's a little Arkansas boy who's
Thank you,
just
Jenny. You're very kind to me.
could just be like queuing up on the golf course and getting ready to, enjoy your afternoon. And instead you are fighting hard to make the world a better place. And you've had great success, some beautiful books coming out, and a lot of people listening to you. You are certainly a voice of change.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope that it is. I hope that it inspires change. Not for me or any sort of like that, but I do hope that that if anything, that if people hear this stuff, that it does inspire them to do the same things. Get out there and be part of whatever's happening, because it takes a village, as you know. Anyway, that's it. That's all I have. I'm terrible.
Good job. The Oscar goes to Robert.
Jenny, what's your big thing for you?
I think for me, since I'm life take two, right? And so I left the Mormon church and left my trad wife life and everything behind, and had such a major life transition late in life. It's been so rewarding for me personally this year. So Robert's all like big politics, right? Well, I'm a girl and a mom, and it's all the personal stuff for me. It's been incredible to live an authentic life, to wake up in the morning and really dig into what are my core values that are driving my actions today, and then live those out. And sometimes I'm swimming upstream, right? Like, I'm this crazy raging feminist who refuses to marry my partner, who won't rely on a man, who doesn't dress the way people want me to, doesn't talk the way people want me to. I am truly being just Jenny, right? And to have success from that, to see my YouTube channels and all of my platforms grow, to have such incredible connections and opportunities, and have not just my voice, but every time I speak on women's issues, I feel that weight of responsibility of speaking for all of those women who don't have microphones, women who are in abusive relationships, women who had to live small and not fulfill their potential, right? That missed potential, that lost potential is always such a heartbreak. So having my platforms and my voice and my story, and thereby all of those stories of other women really spread around the globe this year, has been incredible. And again, like living authentically and not just going with the flow. I didn't have to be a MAGA girl. I didn't have to be a church girl. I didn't have to be somebody's wife to live a fulfilling and successful life. But at the end of the day, it's always that personal one-on-one connection with people. And I think that that's just how as people were wired. And I wish I had my second phone, but it's in the bedroom and I think it's dead, so that I could pull up this DM that I got just this morning. Somebody DM'd me and then sent me a longer email. And she said that she's followed me for the past 3 years. Her name is Erin, and that she grew up very religious in this Catholic family and has always just been stressed out, unhappy. She's 21 years old, thought that she was just going to have to get married and have babies, and really not plan for herself at all, be this living sacrifice. And she said in this email that she has completely changed the direction of her life because of my channel and some others that she follows. And she kind of outlined some of those steps. She's like, here's the things that I'm doing. And then she asked me for advice and help. And to me, it's that one person. If I can be somebody's big sister, if I can, Chris, if we can do a TikTok live and inspire somebody to do something different so that their life is a little bit better, that's my greatest success, because there are people who've helped me and changed me and inspired me, and my life is better because of them. I don't know. That's it. It's not anything else that I've done. It's not the Vanity Fair article was kind of fun. That was my favorite. The NPR was kind of fun.
Yeah,
that's
really
all
cool.
fun. But it's the DM and then the email from one woman, just picturing a 21-year-old girl who's given a different option for life because I decided to do my crazy videos. To me, that's the greatest success. And I guess overall, wouldn't you guys both agree that as our collective voices come together, not just Chris, who's running for J.D. Vance's vacated Senate seat, not just Robert, who's an incredible voice, an incredible mind, a brilliant author, but people outside of us, the rest of our network, and so many, thousands of people like us across the country, as our collective voices come together, it's really exciting to see this movement against fascism, against hatred, against lack of compassion and concern for other people. It's fun to be part of that, isn't it?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. And I think to Jenny's point, I think Jenny and I have talked about this before, that it's so important to remember that whatever it is that you're doing, all you have to do is move one person, right? So it's it's not about changing the world yourself. If that's your goal, you'll fail every time. But if your goal is to reach one person and that person reaches somebody, it eventually you will have the impact that you want to. And I think about it from a lot further aspect. A lot of times, Jenny and I talked about how, Voltaire and Locke, you know, they influenced the founders in ways that really shaped the way we wrote the Constitution. And so that became this very broad idea. Whereas without that, those guys may have faded into some sort of really small obscurity. It's just who do you who's the person that you influence the most? Who's the person whose life you shaped in a way that makes them shape the next thing? And so I think that's the gift that we've been given, is our ability to maybe touch that one person that does the next big thing. And I think Jenny does that probably better than anybody, in that she is so appreciative of every single message that she gets, and she loves the idea of being able to help one person. And she's very vocal about that's her goal, is to just help that next person.
I lay in bed crying. I was crying this morning, and then I wrote Aaron this big long email, and and I get thousands of emails, so it's hard to. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I am not, we'll say, I'm not unaware about the idea of someone never running for a position, running and jumping straight to Senate. And I've had people tell me, like, why are you doing this?
Lots of people run straight for Senate.
Yeah.
Can I answer that for you real quick, Chris? I would like to remind people those are different jobs. State Senate and federal seats are different jobs. It's not that one's harder than the other or that one's more important than the other. They're just different jobs. And so I think whenever people say, "Oh, you're going straight to Senate," if you understand that job is different than state Senate, then you're qualified for the job. It's not that a federal Senate seat is more important inherently. It's different. And we have to stop looking at people as celebrities. We have to stop looking at politicians as these fucking celebrities that are so much better or smarter than we are, because they're fucking not. And I don't mean that about you. Chris is brilliant. I don't mean it like that. But they're not they're just public servants. And they're just out there doing a job, and they're supposed to represent you well, and they're supposed to represent your interests. Stop pretending that they are better than you, or that they are somehow a bigger authority, or that you're placated to them. You're not. That's not what it is. Chris is running for Senate because Chris sees a need and he can fill that need. That's all it is. If it were a state Senate seat that needed to be filled, or that was vacated, that's a different thing. And while it may feel smaller or more centralized, community elections are far more important than federal elections. School board impacts you more than a Senate seat, I promise you. If you have kids in school, like, those are the things that impact you a lot closer. So it's not that it's a less important position, it's just a different position. And that's where I think we have to get to as a country, is understanding the difference.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I don't view it. I understand the reverence and the importance of being a U.S. Senator. I understand that, but I don't view it as this sort of grandiose celebrity thing. I don't care about the power and the prestige. I want to take my skills and use them to make my state and this country better. And with one of the things you talked about, Jenny, like, I've had multiple moments, but one that really kind of hit it for me after I started the Senate thing was, I went to this event, and it wasn't a big one. There was like 15 people there, and mostly like age 65 and up. And as we were wrapping up, the host was like, kind of go around and talk about why you came today and if you learned anything. And this one woman, she stood up and she's like, this was maybe 4 months ago. She's like, since the election, I have been absolutely exhausted and terrified. And I wasn't even going to come.
Same.
to this thing tonight because I just didn't know if I had the energy to get out of the house and go to this like kind of political thing. And she looked at me and she's like, "You are the first time since the election that I have felt any sense of optimism and hope." And I just told her, I was
Chris,
like,
that's beautiful.
I just told her, I was like, I'm glad that I could give that to you. I'm glad that because I think there is optimism and hope to be had. And to your points, 2026 is going to be, this is going to be rolling up the sleeves, getting shit done year. This is not, I think we need to go into it very clear.
We can't float on the lazy river this year. We have to build 2027.
But that opportunity is so exciting, and like we can be a part of making the world a better place in whatever way that looks like, whether it's running for Senate or school board, or it's helping your neighbor cross the street, or taking care of, somebody's children when they need to go and pick up that extra shift. Like there are numerous ways that we can do this, and we can be a part of history and be able to look back at like what we were able to accomplish together as people who care about this country and care about each other. And how wild would that be if we're having this stream on TikTok in 20 years, looking back at, drinking our Mai Tais next to the beach and just being like, what we were able to do to make this world a better place. And I am incredibly grateful to both you two who answered a random email from a random dude in Ohio and were willing to have a conversation that has led into podcast, which has led into conversations, which I think has led into a friendship. So I'm very appreciative of both of you and grateful for everything that you've done.
We saw the potential, Chris. We recognized greatness when we saw it. Should we end on, and thank you so much. Like, it's just been incredible. You keep me motivated every day. Like I wake up and think, well, things are going to hell in a handbasket, but there's a good guy running for JD Vance's vacated Senate seat out in Ohio. So
well, I appreciate
behind that.
it.
Should we?
Yeah, for everybody that's been watching, thank you so much. Thank you for the comments. I know we couldn't get to all of them, but really appreciate you being here. Feel free to check out.
Should we end on what you're doing to make 2026 better? I can go first and be super short.
Sure.
I'm focused on creating community around me with real life people. So when I'm not producing content and I'm not working, then I'm offline. I feed my little single mom that lives upstairs and try to socialize with her. She's 30 years younger than, 28 years younger than me, right? I'm trying to actually go out and knock on my neighbors' doors, invite people out to dinner. We're having a New Year's thing, socialize, build community, and just kind of build my tribe back with real life people as much as I can. My focus this year is community. And my second focus is supporting people around me, whether on a national level, like you, for instance, when I filled out the form to be a volunteer and help with social media and wherever I can with you, supporting people in things that are actually making a difference. So there's some nonprofits. A little bit of my money is going to working with you, working with some other organizations that are fighting Turning Point USA and, the populist plank that I'm part of under Rokana, things like that. So really putting my energy into focusing on helping make the world a better place and getting to know people around me. That's my 2026. That's my obsession. And losing 20 pounds for my Netflix documentary. That's 2026 for Jenny.
Robert, do you have anything else to add?
Mine's busy. Mine's a lot with strategy and policy building for the party around rural America and rural strategy for candidates and such. So I'm busy. I'm super fucking busy. Starting
7 days a week.
It's better to be busy than bored.
Yeah. Well, boredom won't come into it. A lot of travel in 26. So I mean, that with I've got 3 books that are at the publisher right now, being edited and trying to get that done, and then get the first book printed again so that people aren't mad at me anymore because they haven't set up out yet. So, that kind of thing. So just a busy 2026. As things develop, I can say more and be more specific about exactly what's going on. But
And
Awesome.
Chris, your goal for 2026 is win
Well,
the Ohio Senate
yeah.
seat against
Win
great
that Senate
odds
seat.
against Sherrod Brown. And
Yep.
should that happen, we've had a lot of comments about women's rights in Ohio.
Yep.
Should that happen, I'd like to advise you on women's rights in Ohio. Boom. How about
Yeah.
that?
I'm definitely seeing some things, and I apologize. I'm just trying to wrap it up because we're 20 minutes past
Yeah.
our original time, so I'm not ignoring anybody. But yeah, my goal is to win the seat in Ohio if I can, and if I can get on stage with Sherrod Brown and just push forward a lot of these issues that people aren't talking about and move that needle, I'm excited to do that. Also, personally, my friend who has been sick, I'm spending a lot of time taking care of him and helping him out, but also just doing small things to move the positivity here locally and just get folks feeling like there is something that we can build towards again, because I really do think that there is. I think this is super exciting times. So follow both Jenny and Robert on their various channels and YouTubes. They both do great work. You can follow me at Volpe for America on all the social medias, as well as you can go to my website. Really appreciate everybody. I am going to let Robert and Jenny go, and then I'm going to hang out for just a few minutes to maybe pull people in, but I am also on call for my friend. So if he hits me up, then we will have to end since we are well in there. But Robert, Jenny, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope you have a wonderful New Year's. I'm sure we will talk, and it sounds like a lot of interest in doing something like this again. So thank you both for your
Sounds
time. I
good.
greatly
Thank you all very
appreciate it.
much.
Thanks,
Talk to you
Chris.
soon.
Thanks, Robert. Nice to see you guys. Bye. Bye, everybody.